You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And what a way to start the season for the Golden State Warriors. Another big win tonight, 127-86 over the Utah Jazz. And the bench again was the big story as Buddy Buckets led the way with 27 points and 7 threes. But the bench as a whole poured in 80. So a great night for everybody in blue and gold coming off that bench. But we got to focus on Buddy because he's already showing a special connection with Steph on the floor after just 2 regular season games. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button, and thanks also for tuning into the Locked On Warriors podcast feed and making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage as your second listen. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And this one, the same kind of game script, more or less, as we saw play out in Portland. The Warriors today came out flat. The offense, again, looked really sluggish and clunky to start this one. The Jazz opened up on a 15-6 run, and the Warriors called a timeout with about 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in that first quarter. And Buddy Hield came in, GP2 came in, Kuminga went to the bench, and so did TJD. And the Warriors offense, the same thing happened that we saw in Portland, kicked into another gear. Over the next 6:27, the Warriors poured in 26 points. They only scored 6 over the first 5:33. So, I mean, with Buddy Hield and Steph on the court at the same time, this Warriors offense looks, absolutely phenomenal. Looks better than it did, I want to say, at almost any point in time last year. And we heard Steph's comments about the egos in the locker room at this point. Versus what they were last year. And some people were questioning whether or not he was kind of throwing some shade at Klay Thompson, his former Splash brother, now out there in Dallas. And what a Dallas debut for Klay. Poured in 6 threes, 22 points in his Dallas debut. I've said it all offseason long. I think he's going to be great in Dallas, doing all the things that we wished he would have done here in Golden State last year. That's play defense and take set shots from beyond the arc. Never saw Klay take so many pull-up, running jumpers off of the dribble as I did last year. But the Warriors this year with Buddy Hield in the lineup look really, really good. He led them in scoring on Wednesday in their first game of the season. And today he leads them in scoring again. 27 points for Buddy Hield off the bench, 7 of 9 from 3. And he was really showing that connection with Steph. 20 minutes played for Buddy Hield. And one thing that I've noticed a lot about Buddy so far in his time with the Warriors is he is sprinting up and down the court on both sides of the ball. He's getting back on defense. Transition defense as a whole for the Warriors has been dramatically improved this year over what we saw from them last year. And Buddy, there's been 3 or 4 times this season so far in just these 2 games where I've seen Steph throw outlet passes way ahead of Buddy Hield, like leading him, like a quarterback would be leading his receiver out on the football field. I'm seeing Steph throw lead passes out to Buddy Hield, and Buddy's catching them in full sprint. And he's either getting to the rim and scoring an easy transition bucket, or like we saw tonight, he's throwing lobs now to Jonathan Kuminga. I have never seen this version of Buddy Hield out on the floor before. This guy looks like, I'm joking here, but Buddy Hield for MVP, is it too early to say after 2 games into the season? Obviously, it absolutely is, and that's not going to happen. But Buddy Hield, man, has been so solid for the Warriors. It's been a very, very, it's been like a weight lifted off this team. Watching them play offense this year, it looks like it's flowing freely like it used to. This looks like the old rhythm Warriors offenses of years past, where everybody was just moving without the ball. The off-ball screens were working really well. And the Warriors, it felt like every bucket in that first half came off of a screen. They are whipping that thing around, and that offense is flowing like water. And Steph said it himself. Everybody's got, positive egos is what he called it. No one's got a big, I need my my 10 to 15 shots a night type ego on this team, and everybody's contributing. This win, 127-86. I mean, we could have started this show after halftime. The Warriors really had this one in hand from start to finish. They won every single quarter that they played tonight, scored 32 in the first, 24 in the second, 38 in the third, and 33 in the fourth. But they had two separate quarters tonight where they held Utah to less than 20 points. And that is a big deal because this team, if they want to be good, they're going to have to be good on defense. And so far through two games, the Warriors have held both of their opponents to sub 40% shooting. I know that it's been the Portland Trailblazers and the Utah Jazz, but hey, you got to play who's in front of you, and that's who's in front of the Warriors right now. Tonight for Utah, just 31.5% from the field. The Warriors also came up with 15 steals in this one and only turned the ball over 13 times. So the Warriors win the turnover battle, and they stifle the Jazz defense. And from three-point land, the Jazz only shot 21.4%. So the rotation on defense has looked phenomenal. Even when the Warriors go small, you have the luxury of a GP2 out there to be able to play a little bit bigger than you really are out there at times. And obviously Wiggins and Kuminga can switch on to bigger defenders and hold their own in the paint. But this Warriors team, I think that defensively needs to be where they hang their hat if they want to be back in the playoffs. I mean, this is the recipe for success for this team. Gang rebounding and, narrowly won the rebounding battle against a bigger Utah Jazz team. I mean, you got Lauri Markkanen down there and Walker Kessler as well, who hauls in a bunch of rebounds, but they did a great job. I mean, the rebounding ability of the Warriors guards is really, we've known this for years now. Steph is a better rebounder than advertised, and Brandon Podziemski last year showed what he could do all the time. That guy was, just raking in double-doubles with those rebounds. And I mean, he's doing the same thing again this year. Pods looked really good tonight. After not really doing too much of putting the ball in the cylinder against Portland, we saw Pods 4-15 tonight, 7 of 14 from the floor. He even hit a 3 as well, had 5 boards in this one also for Brandon Podziemski. So the Warriors really doing it collectively. I mean, you saw again, every single player on the Warriors got run tonight. Every single guy, even Guy Santos and Lindy Waters III got some run out there today for the Warriors. And everybody who played any meaningful minutes had really a big impact on this game. I mean, D'Anthony Melton didn't score in this one, but he had a lot of really great defensive plays. He was getting his nose in there, causing loose balls. How many Warriors dove for loose balls today? The amount of effort and hustle on defense, it's just been ratcheted up to another level this season. The Warriors are flying around on defense. Even Steph. Steph came up with a couple steals in this one as well. He had a couple steals on Wednesday against the Blazers. He's just getting involved, getting in passing lanes, and not letting teams just whip the ball around the perimeter and make that predictable pass. You see the Warriors getting some turnovers off inbound plays and things like that. Like, this defense looks locked in. We saw them kind of turn it on halfway through the season last year. And if the Warriors are able to play that level of defense through the entire season, that is going to propel this team into the playoffs, hopefully into the playoffs and not the play-in. Hopefully it's one of those top 6 seeds and not one of those 7 through 10 seeds, and they can just avoid the play-in tournament altogether. And I really think that with this group, they have a shot to do that. I mean, you saw tonight, it's going to be a different guy every night off the bench. But again, Buddy Hield, big time effort for the Warriors off the bench, 10 of 14 shooting. He also had 6 assists, including that nice lob and transition that we saw to Jonathan Kuminga. And speaking of Jonathan Kuminga, he only had 2 points in this game. He didn't play very well in Portland either. He was only 1 of 5 for tonight, only 18 minutes also for Jonathan Kuminga. And again, we were through 2 Warriors games, and not one player on the Warriors has played more than 30 minutes in a single game. That's absolutely wild. That's a testament to how deep this team really is. And I think that going forward, we do have to answer the question, talking about Jonathan Kuminga, is this guy going to be part of the Warriors rotation going forward? Is he deserving of this 5th starter spot? Jonathan Kuminga hasn't looked great out there for the Warriors. The offense has looked clunky when he's been in there. When the ball rotates to him, it tends to stop rotating, and everyone else just starts to stand around, and it looks like we're watching last year's Warriors offense, which was not very good. It led to a first-round play-in exit. So I think that's something the Warriors need to address going forward is how does Jonathan Kuminga fit into this Warriors team? Is he redundant since you have Andrew Wiggins out there, and Wiggs didn't have the best shooting night tonight. He went 3 for 10 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, but 13 rebounds for Wiggs, 5 boards and a couple blocks. That's pretty solid. A plus 17 plus minus for Andrew Wiggins. Jonathan Kuminga not really doing all those additional things. Only 1 board, 1 assist. He did have a block. He did have a plus 8 on the plus minus. So where does Jonathan Kuminga fit in to this Warriors team? Let's talk about that a little bit more next and get into some more things. Trace Jackson Davis, I mean, he hasn't missed a shot yet this year. So many things to talk about from this Warriors game and from this Warriors early season so far. We saw Lauri Markkanen on the other side. That was a big conversation piece in this offseason. How close was he to becoming a Warrior? Anthony Slater actually just put out an article in The Athletic a couple days ago detailing some of that. So plenty of things we can get into going forward on the Locked On Warriors postcast. That's what's next. Stick with us here. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONNBA on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight, 127-86 win for the Warriors, 2-0, and a great start to the 2024-2025 season. The Warriors' next challenge will come Sunday as basketball returns to the Bay at a Chase Center matchup against the Clippers. Possibly a playoff preview, maybe later on down the road. Way too early in the season to be talking about playoff previews, though, after the Warriors just finished their second game of the season and have yet to really play a quality opponent. But you got to play who's in front of you, and the Warriors have played two teams that missed the playoffs last year and were not very good. And I don't expect either the Blazers or the Jazz to be very good this year. And it could have been a little bit different look Warriors going into this season if the Jazz had wanted to play ball with the Warriors in the offseason. And Lauri Markkanen was, this close to becoming a Warrior, so close, but it just they couldn't hammer it out, they couldn't get it done. And from the Anthony Slater article in The Athletic that was published a couple days ago, it sounds like if the Warriors had landed Paul George in a sign and trade from the Clippers, then they would have been able to go all in without holding back at all on Lauri Markkanen. However, Mike Dunleavy, remember him telling us that it doesn't make sense to go all in to be slightly above average. And that's honestly what the Warriors kind of could have profiled to be this year. But so far through these first 2 games, this team looks a little bit better than slightly above average, man. This bench looks to be as good as advertised. And 80 points, we kind of glossed over that at the start of the show, but this bench scored 80 points tonight. When's the last time we've played 2 games now? I feel like the Warriors could have just not had Steph Curry for these last 2 games, won both of them. When's the last time that you felt comfortable saying that you feel like the Warriors could have definitely won a game without Steph Curry in the lineup? And it's been a while, man. I remember that Steph Curry injury year. It was not very fun. The Warriors did not win a lot of games. Eric Paschall was the best player on the team for the majority of the season. And that's not at all what this team right now feels like. Obviously, Steph just draws an immense amount of gravity, and there's a reason that all these other guys are playing at the level that they are, and that is because Steph Curry is who he is. Buddy Hield is able to get those wide open looks when Steph's on the court, because if you're going to pick one to leave, you're not leaving Steph. You're going to leave Buddy open over Steph. Although tonight, Steph 4 of 13 from 3, Buddy 7 of 9. So looks like Buddy stepped up when needed, but plus 24 led the Warriors in plus minus, tied with Brandon Pajemski, the great connector, as Steve Kerr likes to call him. But Buddy Hield did all this in 20 minutes again. So he's led the Warriors in scoring in sub 15 minutes in game 1, and in game 2, 20 minutes played leads the Warriors in scoring with 27. And again, I can't say enough about the hustle factor of what I've seen from the Warriors. And it's not just Buddy, although Buddy has been at the center of a lot of these hustle plays, getting back on defense, making a great transition plays on offense as well, catching all these go-ahead passes from Steph Curry. But all the other new coming role players as well, DeAnthony Melton and slow-mo Kyle Anderson. We saw both of them making a lot of plays tonight, getting a lot of run. Both of them, Melton got 14 minutes of play. Anderson got 19 minutes of run. And both of them really filling up the stat sheet, doing all the extra stuff. So both of them were, I felt like, playing really good defense today, really, really scrambling for loose balls. Brandon Pajemski getting involved in some loose balls as well. And the Warriors just doing a great job on their defensive rotations. Biggest issue from last year's team was letting teams back into games, just eviscerating 20-point leads, 15-point leads in the second half, just gone. How many times did you feel safe in the non-Steph minutes last year as games were, as Steph would sit down for his rest going into the fourth quarter, and you would just kind of cross your fingers and hope that when you got to the 6-7 minute mark in the fourth, when Steph would come back in off the bench, the Warriors would still be, at least within striking distance, within 2, 3, 4 points by that point. And even if Steph left with the lead, you knew that the Warriors weren't going to be able to sustain that. And right now, when Steph's coming out, the bench is building leads. The bench isn't just trying to survive. The bench is trying to win, go out there and dominate and push that lead even further ahead. And this is where the Warriors are going to be better than a lot of teams. Like the Warriors starting five, that you're going to find better starting fives throughout the NBA. That's just a matter of fact that they exist. The Warriors starting five is not what it once was. There's no Kevin Durant to go pair with Steph Curry. There's no, top of his game, Klay Thompson. Draymond Green is substantially older than he was in that era, and so is Steph. But Steph can still do a lot of those same things that he used to be able to. Draymond's abilities have, his powers aren't at the peak of what they once were. This lineup, the starting five, is not the best in the world, but this bench might be the best in the NBA. And that's where you're really going to give teams a run for their money. You're going to force other teams to play thinner because your bench is going to be able to run theirs right out of the gym, and other teams are going to want to get their starters back in quicker to match the talent level. And the Warriors, you don't really have that rush to put Steph back in that you used to have at those end of games. So many times at the end of last season when the Warriors needed to win games to make the playoffs, Steph wasn't getting that full rest that he was accustomed to. And to start the fourth quarter, that's been his ebb and flow of his minutes forever, it feels like at this point. Steph always sits to start that fourth quarter, and when he's not able to, it wears on him. And we saw Steph pressing at the end of last season, getting worn down. If Steph is able to play 27 minutes a night, we got 2 games so far into the season. Steph has yet to hit 30 minutes. If they can keep managing his minutes like this and keep those minutes down, the Warriors are going to be a very dangerous team late in the season. I can't stress enough how important it is to keep number 30 fresh. That is the number one thing you need if you want this team to have a snowball's chance in hell in the postseason this year. Steph's got to be at the top of his game. There's got to be no nagging injuries, no question as to how healthy and ready to go Steph Curry is. And the way that you get there is by leaning on this bench in these games. Even the 6 and 7 minutes for Guy Santos and Lindy Waters III, those minutes are helpful. You're not running your guys into the ground, and every other guy besides those two played double-digit minutes tonight. So this bench, every single guy can play, and it is hands down the Warriors' biggest strength. And having all the defensive specialists that you have out there, Gary Payton II and Draymond Green, and I'm even going to say Brandon Pajemski, we're going to qualify him as a defensive specialist at this point after leading the league in charges last year. And he's always in perfect position defensively. I know he's not the most intimidating guy physically on the defensive side of the ball, but man, great positioning does wonders for your defense in basketball. And I mean, plus you got guys like Kyle Anderson that can help out. Draymond Green, obviously, still the top of his game defensively, and Andrew Wiggins. He's a pretty solid wing defender too when he wants to be. We've seen him do that, as we saw in the 2022 final stretch when Wiggins just guarded every team's best player all the way to the championship. So the Warriors have a lot to work with defensively. That is the key for this team going forward. Again, they held the Jazz to just 31.5% shooting tonight from the field and 21.4% from deep. So this was a solid win for the Warriors, a high energy, effort-laced win from start to finish. I mean, even in the fourth quarter when you're up, just like 30, 40-point lead, and the Warriors still playing with all this high energy. The deep bench really promoting that. Everyone playing less minutes, so guys are more fresh. And also you have everyone competing for minutes, so they're all competing with each other, hustling constantly, trying to get just a little bit more playing time in their next game. And going forward, it's about replicating this bench production. I mean, we've seen it now 2 games in a row, both on the road. The road games weren't an issue last year. It was the games at home, surprisingly enough, the games at Chase Center that were a big issue for the Warriors. They need to be better at home this year. And you got to test with the Clippers coming into town. I know they don't have Kawhi Leonard, but I mean, the beard, James Harden still, I mean, he looks like he's poised to have a throwback type season for the beard. So we're going to get another installation of James Harden versus Steph Curry, although this isn't quite the same as the Rockets versus the Warriors back when they still had Chris Paul and all those guys. And so the Warriors Clippers coming up next for you on Sunday at Chase Center, and we'll be coming to you live, or at least we'll try to, on the Locked On Warriors postcast. We also got a 49ers game that we got to do the Locked On 49ers postcast for, so we're going to try and sneak both of those in on Sunday, and we'll see how that goes if we can make it all work. But for tonight, the Warriors, a dominant 127-86 win over the Utah Jazz. But I still have lingering questions. And the one big question I have is, does Jonathan Kuminga fit into this team? What do they do with him? If they find that he's kind of redundant to have an Andrew Wiggins, where do you put him? And he doesn't look like he's developing that shot too well. What do you do with Jonathan Kuminga? But we'll talk about that and more next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans and NBA fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And tonight, man, I think the Warriors were giving 6.5, 7 points, something like that, to the Utah Jazz. Man, I don't care if it was 6.5, 7, 7.5, even 17.5. The Warriors are covering that against Utah. Did you see the way that they slapped Utah around last year? Of course, they're going to do it again this year. The Warriors go into Utah's house and beat them up in their own home and just absolutely dismantled them. Of course, they covered that point spread. And you need to get in on this action every week on FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Just taking a peek at the chat. I see my guy Jordan saying Buddy Hield for MVP. And I mean, through these first 2 games of the season, if we're giving out, 2-game MVPs, sure, let's give it to Buddy Hield for the Warriors' first road trip of the season. He gets the Warriors MVP for the first 2 games of the year. The Warriors' first roadie, Buddy Hield, playing out of his mind, led the Warriors in scoring last Wednesday or on Wednesday in the season opener, and leads them in scoring again tonight, 27 points against the Utah Jazz. And the one guy who I did have a question mark about after the first game and after this game as well, is Jonathan Kuminga, man, because this guy, we've been waiting for Kuminga to show us the progression, like we know what he can be. He's ultra athletic. I mean, top 0.0001% athletes in the NBA, not just in the world, in the NBA. This guy is one of the top, maybe like 5 best athletes in all of basketball. but it hasn't really translated to success on the court as much as you'd like to see. There were points in time at the end of last season where Kuminga was averaging over 20 points a game, and that was a positive sign. He was really looking to attack the rim and drive, and he wasn't looking so much to attack off the face up and attack off the dribble and try and cross guys up and pull up and shoot. That's not his game. He's great when he's a slasher and he can catch lobs and throw it down. He's great in transition when he can show off that speed, where he proves to you that he's one of the best athletes in the NBA. He can utilize that leaping ability. It just isn't happening with him on the offensive side of the ball. He still looks lost. So there are just points in time where the Warriors offense is flowing and then the ball goes into Kuminga in the post and everyone stops moving. And Kuminga takes 4, 5, 6 dribbles, tries to go up for a layup and either gets the ball stripped or just throws up a wild shot or goes up for the layup and then bails out with the last second pass while he's already in the air. And it just doesn't look like he really has a fit in this offense. I still don't know if this guy's a 3 or a 4 right now. I mean, he seems to score better as a 4. And as a 3, he seems to press too much and shoot too many jumpers that he just doesn't make. Again, he has yet to hit a 3-point shot this season. And that 3-pointer is not his game, but that was something that we were expecting to see him improve a little bit this year. And so far, I know it's 2 games, but we haven't really seen that from Kuminga. He looks lost, looks straight up lost out there. He played 18 minutes, just 1 minute more than Trayce Jackson-Davis, who barely saw action last year until the second half of the season, where he really broke into some of those starting lineups towards the very end of the season. Jonathan Kuminga has so much more experience than Trayce Jackson-Davis. By this point in his career, Jonathan Kuminga should have shown us that he's taking these steps forward. He's not. He's just not. And he's not. His positioning defensively it's not terrible, but it could be better. And we're seeing we didn't see any turnovers from him tonight, but in the game against Portland, we saw him pressing and turning the ball over a bunch. But again, today, 1 for 5 from the field in 18 minutes, only 1 rebound. And when you're playing a 3-4 hybrid, as Jonathan Kuminga does, I need more than 1 rebound from my guy, especially on a team that doesn't really have a lot of bigs. I mean, Kevon Looney and Trayce Jackson-Davis can't be pulling down every single rebound, although tonight Looney did have 10 boards off the bench in just 13 minutes of action. TJD, 6 of 6 from the field. By the way, still hasn't missed a shot this year, TJD, and he did pull in 9 boards, so 1 board shy of a double-double for Trayce Jackson-Davis, who finished with 12 points. But Jonathan Kuminga just doesn't look like he fits into this Warriors offense. Or, I mean, defensively, it's not really that much better either, but especially it's so noticeable on the offensive end of the ball, because whenever Kuminga touches the basketball, it seems like everybody just stops. It's like pulling an e-brake on the entire offense. And I'm not sure that you want to take Buddy Hield off the bench and put him into the starting lineup. I don't think you make that change 2 games into the season, 3 games into the season. But I do think that if this continues with Kuminga, you can't keep running out the same starting 5. You'll give him some time to adjust and see if they mesh, and if he figures it out. You have to give him a little bit of time. The Warriors don't really have much more of a choice. But if you could just imagine a world in which the Warriors were able to move off Kuminga and actually go and get a Lauri Markkanen, and how much better the starting 5 would be if they had Markkanen, Green, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Andrew Wiggins, and Steph Curry. Oh, man, that would be fun. But we just at this point have to hope that Kuminga can put it together, man. If this guy can develop a jump shot, and if he can figure out how to fit into this Warriors offense and move without the ball, set these off-ball screens, and figure out how to come off the screens when he doesn't have the ball, he's going to be so unstoppable just because of how physically gifted he is. His vertical, his speed, the way that he can just attack the rim at will when he makes up his mind that that's how he's going to go attack. That's what the Warriors need. That's the best case scenario that you can hope for with Jonathan Kuminga. But going forward, I really don't see it. I just straight up don't see that happening. I think the Warriors do have enough that won't sink them. I don't think that Jonathan Kuminga falling out of the rotation and not delivering on all this potential that he has, I don't think that will sink the Warriors season. They have so many other pieces that I think they'll be able to recover from something like that. But I do think that it's an issue going forward. I mean, how much do you wish that the Warriors would have traded Jonathan Kuminga 2 off seasons ago? Not this last off season, but the one before, where there were those rumors of if the Warriors could go get LeBron or somebody else for Jonathan Kuminga, and who knows how true that was or how close they actually were to go making a trade like that, a massive, massive, massive impact trade. But at this point, Jonathan Kuminga's value will never be that high again unless he all of a sudden just develops a three-point shot. And I don't see that happening in the middle of the season. So we'll see if that happens. The Warriors, we'll see if they can make it 3 wins in a row to start the 2024-2025 NBA season. They play their first game at home at Chase Center on Sunday against the Clippers. And as I said, we'll try to come to you live. There might be some scheduling conflicts that we got with the Locked On 49ers postcast, but we'll do our best to get both the Locked On Warriors and the Locked On Niners postcast in. And on that note, if you aren't following us on the YouTube channel, Locked On Sports San Francisco, you need to be so that you can stay up to date on all of your Bay Area sports post games. We do Warriors, Giants during baseball season, and of course, 49ers as well. So make sure you're following us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. If you're getting us on the podcast version, thanks so much for tuning in that way. And make sure for your second listen that you're checking out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show. That's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. A great start to the season for the Warriors. Couldn't have asked for anything better through these first 2 games. 2-0 to start the season, 127-86 dominant win over the Utah Jazz tonight. And Buddy Hield, let's just go ahead and give him the MVP right now, man. Buddy Hield, Buddy Buckets, and Steph Curry showing off just a great, great, great connection they've already established over just 2 games. This is something fun to watch going forward. 2 of the best shooters in the NBA. We've seen this story before in Golden State. We can ride that wave all the way to the finals. Let's see if this team can do it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.